Well, welcome back into the Norfolk Cottage garden, where we are filming this afternoon towards the end of August 2020, and we are just about coming to the end of the hollyhock season now for this year. Those of you that have watched our hollyhock videos throughout the season will remember this patch of hollyhocks on the side of the barn that was so spectacular earlier in the season, and we're now getting to seed harvesting time. And just look at the crop that we've got here. We've got absolutely thousands of ripening seed pods, and it's now time to start harvesting and collecting these to secure your hollyhock flowers for the coming couple of years. So Kate's going to show you how to cut these stems into sections. First tip that she's given me is really that you should not be harvesting these when they're wet. You really do want to pick a nice dry day when the seed pods are completely dry. And all she's doing is snipping the dry seed pods. They're quite hard, firm things, but you can see that the outer leaves have opened and revealed the little florets of hollyhock seed that are sitting dry in their capsules. So these, once they're nice and dry on a dry day, can be cut and harvested, and here we have a mass of seed pods. Some have emptied already. You see that one's emptied, and you'll see the seeds falling out into her glove. Those are the hollyhock seeds. So now what do you do with those next? Okay, the other option for storing these seeds is to cut the whole stem out. Now if this has finished flowering, as you can see it has, the top seed pods are still green. Those seeds won't be mature, but certainly the majority of the seeds on the stalk are completely dry. So the other option is to cut these into sections, and this is what we successfully do to put whole stalks covered in seeds onto gravelled areas where we want the hollyhocks to seed the following year. So we just harvest these by cutting the whole stem. On a dry day, again, it is critical that this is completely dry, and then the best way of storing those is into a large paper bag. So we've got this section. Oh, it's not. Yes, it is going. Right, we've got this section now, and we're basically just going to pop that into a nice paper bag. You'll see just as it goes in, the seeds fall away. This is the other method of storing them. If you do cut them as just the single pods, you can then put these into a bowl, dry them off, and then again these can be put into a paper bag. They've got to be stored dry, and they do need a bit of air circulation, so I wouldn't put them into plastic bags. Paper is far better just to keep them nice and dry, and then the whole thing needs to be stored somewhere dry so that they don't get damp, because if they do get damp or you harvest them damp, these are going to mould off and the fertility of the seeds will really go down. Right, so this is an example of the second method that we spoke to you about, where a whole stem basically is laid on its side and just left in the area where you want the seeds to come up. And the results of doing that last year can be seen in this area just to the side, where we've got a really good germination of young hollyhock seeds. Some have come up several months ago and are now growing away into decent plants. Others you can see just starting to emerge through this gravel. Now it doesn't have to be done on gravel. We love growing these through gravel in a courtyard garden setting, but you can do this just on open earth or soil, somewhere where you're not going to put a heavy mulch down or anything this season, because those seedlings will need to come up, and it's best to do it in an open area like this where they don't have too much in the way of competition for the light, especially for the first year or so until they get into an established decent sized plant. So we're now going to just sow some seed in addition to this, and it is basically just scattering them where you want them, breaking them up, and these now will sit there, and they will sit there usually for 6 months, and they will be frosted, which will help open the case on the seeds, and as they fall down through the gravel top dressing and hit the soil beneath, then they will start germinating next year. So this is a process that you're sowing now or putting seed down now for seedlings to grow up and your hollyhocks to then mature over the course of 1 year, and then that is a plant that was seeded and grown last year. You can see it's a young plant. It's put a couple of flower spikes up this year, and that will grow away now and probably live for 3, 4, 5 years if it doesn't get rusted. So you do grow these as what's called biannuals. So you're sowing year 1, they grow on, year 2 they start flowering. Now the other point to make is these grow into quite big plants, and when you're sowing seeds like we have here, you're literally putting hundreds, maybe thousands of seeds down into your seed bed at a time. So these do need to be thinned, and if you're careful, these young seedlings, if you can get them early enough before they put the big taproot down, then you can transplant these and grow the plants on in a different area. So we're just going to try digging some of these up for you now and just see and show you the root formation that they've made at different stages. Okay, so we've put a trowel down. You need to go quite deep just to lift them. You'll see it's a long single taproot before it starts splitting. You do need to get well under them, but that's a lovely little plant. Now that is key to do at quite an early stage, the 2 or 3 leaf stage at the very latest. If you leave it to this stage, the taproot will have gone straight down and you're going to break the main taproot, and that will really reduce the speed and health with which the plants grow away. So this is the stage to transplant or thin. If you can't be bothered or have got ample coming up in the area that you want them, these could just be hoed out, and that's the method that we'll use for the majority of these seedlings. They won't ever make full plants, they will be hoed out. Now what we are collecting here in Norfolk this year is an enormous amount of seed. We are going to make this available free of charge to anybody that would like to try growing hollyhocks this year and next spring. So if you follow the link in the bio below, what we're going to do is put a link through to the blog, and then there are instructions there for sending a stamped addressed envelope if you'd like us to send you some free seed to have a go growing hollyhocks. I would say that is for UK viewers only. We don't want to be in breach of any EU or international limitations on the passage of seeds or plant materials, so we are restricting that, I'm afraid, just to people in the United Kingdom postal areas. I'm just going to talk a little now about growing these seedlings on, because if you are transplanting a lot, then you do need to look after these quite carefully in the first instance. Now they can be planted directly out into the place that you want the hollyhock plant to grow on, and if you do so, then a nice deep hole into an area where you haven't got any hollyhocks established, and you do need to get them nice and deep. They need to be planted at the same depth as the seedling was growing, and then you will need to water these recurrently over the next month to 6 weeks until you see that growth starting again. Now the other option is for you to pot these on into potting composts. You do need to be over generous with the size of pot that you're putting these on. If you try putting them just into a small 4 or 5 inch pot, you will find that that taproot will not have sufficient compost to get deep and give you a good healthy plant. So you need at least a 6 inch pot to pot these into. I know it looks ridiculous when you first pot these tiny seedlings into there, but it allows that taproot to get going, and again you need to water these for at least 4 or 5 weeks, and then again not keep them in the pot for too long, because again the roots need to go right down. These are very deep rooted plants, so pot them up maybe for 6 to 8 weeks, and once you've got the plants to 3 or 4 leaves at around this stage, then they should be planted out into their final growing area. And I would do that at the end of this season, or at the very latest very early next spring, to get those plants away and growing healthily. The worst thing you can do for these is keep them pot bound, because they just will then never make really big decent plants. And just another tip when it comes to, if you are growing these in pots, make sure that you are using a really well free draining compost. These don't like to get soggy or have their roots wet. They do need to be kept moist, but they need a free draining compost, and they certainly don't want to be sat in water. That will rot them off very successfully. So again, plenty of gravel or grit or permiculite, something like that, vermiculite, sorry, into your compost mix, so it's very, very loose and free draining when you're growing these on. Okay everyone, so that's just about everything. Just to reiterate, you did hear us right. If you would like a free packet of Gardeners Cottage hollyhock seeds and you're in the UK, then just look in the description below. We've got the blog address that you can follow, and we will send you a free packet of August 2020 English Norfolk's Best Hollyhock Seed. Please don't request specific colours. We can't guarantee what colours these seedlings are going to be. You're going to get a mixed lot and have hopefully a lovely variety of the different range of colours that we've shown you over this season. So do keep in touch and do let us know how you get on with growing your hollyhocks. Bye for now.